law, you have to hire anyone that is, allowed to work or can work or fill the position. So it's more like a Western corporation in that sense. Yes, I agree with you in that description. So in describing it as halal, I would refrain from doing that because of the fact that there's a lot of doubt in these companies now. Who's slaughtering the animal? It might be Muslims, might be Christians, you might be atheists, Hindus, Sikh, you don't know. There's a variety here, so you got to be a bit careful with this. And this is based upon the principle of al-ihtiyat, taking by precautionary measures to protect and safeguard your own well-being and also your own dua. You want to preserve that, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yes.
So, I was wondering what your view is on kombucha.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of it.
I did a research on that. It's a fermented drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so with fermented drinks, the thing with it is that during Rasulullah's time, they would consume what is known as nabidh. Nabidh was a drink that was, fermented, but not alcohol. So it would go through a process. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you find that drink bubbling up and spitting, don't drink it because it's not transformed into alcohol. But if it's before that, it's okay. So there is some small alcohol content in the drink during Rasulullah's time, but it's naturally forming through the fermentation process. It's not become alcohol at that point, but it's on its way to becoming. People would drink it. So they would make this drink with dates and water. So they put dates, the fresh dates, and put it in the water, leave it in the sun, and then that would bubble up in that way. Till today, they eat something similar. They drink something similar in Mecca and Medina. They call it subi or sobi. It's kind of like a bread nabid. So they drink that, especially in Ramadan. You'll find them in the streets. They sell the thing. So this is a fermented drink. It's halal as long as it does not intoxicate. But once it does intoxicate, it becomes haram. Now look at this. We're not using a special method of testing the alcohol content by chemical means or no. You're also to visually track it to see it, taste it. If it seems off, don't drink it. So there's going to be some small amount. So the same thing with the drink that you're talking about. It may have a small amount, but it's naturally forming, not added in. So to go back to the example of ice caps, the reason I view it to be inappropriate or haram is because here the alcohol has been added in. It's not a naturally forming thing. So if a substance has a naturally forming amount of alcohol that does not intoxicate, to me it's okay. Because it's not going to intoxicate you, it's naturally there, it's fermenting, no problem. But if it's taken, the actual alcohol is taken, added into something else, this is impure in that case and should be avoided in that regard. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Sorry, just a quick question. Well, you said earlier in your lecture, if in the restaurant food are cooked in the same plate, what if the restaurant kind of wiped that surface and then cook your food? Let's say I know the cook and he said, okay, I will wipe it. You take a wet cloth and you wipe it. Then they cook my food and then go on.
Look, this is really a point of your own, I would say this depends upon your own comfort. If you believe that they can clean it sufficiently enough, that there's no pork content on that plate where they're cooking, it's really your thing. You can do it.
What do you mean by sufficient? Can you define it for me?
Like, let's say you go there and it's a walk, and you tell the person that, clean it, can you clean it because I'm a Muslim, I don't eat. He said, okay. And I can only imagine that he'll take a cloth and wipe over it. That's it. Have you ever seen pork being cooked? Have you ever seen the fat, how sticky it is?
Yeah, I went to cooking school actually.
Yeah, okay, so you would know that. It's very sticky stuff. I've seen it in pizza. That stuff it's like stringy. So I don't think, I can just kind of envision this. If you just take a cloth and wipe over it, I don't think they'll be getting rid of it.
I'm talking about the hot plate. So the hot plate in the back of the restaurant, right?
Oh, okay, hot plate.
I thought you
were talking about the wok thing.
Oh, no. Just the hot plates.
The grill, yeah.
Like the grills of the cookers, right?
Yeah.
The hot plates ones.
Oh, okay.
They are basically, everything gets like melted, right? So they were kind of they usually clean it quickly after every cook, pretty much. Like they will have to wipe it.
If you feel like this is not really, it's based on what you feel in this case. If you feel that it's clean enough that you think khalas, the pork would have disappeared, then yeah, you can do that if you wanted to. I'm not going to say haram, no, this is up to you. Because these rules, they're individual. You take by them yourself as an individual. You know the rulings and guidelines, you apply it the way that you feel it's best suited for you, inshallah.
Shrimps and prawns.
Well, shrimps and prawns, ya akhi, the majority of scholars indicate that they are halal. The majority. The only madhab that would indicate them to be inappropriate or wrong or haram is the Hanafi madhab. The shellfish, they look at them as being bottom feeders that consume that which is impure, so one should avoid it. But there's no actual proof to indicate that this is, it's more, see, like, this is what we call ta'leel. Ta'leel, when we ask the scholars who say, why do you say that lobster and crab are haram? They say because they consume impure things at the bottom of the ocean floor. So this is what we call a ta'leel, a reasoning, an intellectual reasoning as to why this would be deemed inappropriate. But when the intellectual reasoning conflicts with what we have in the Quran or the Sunnah of Rasulullah, priority is given to the Quran and the Sunnah over the intellectual reasoning. So in that sense, we have in the hadith, Rasulullah was asked about the ocean water. He said, هو الطهور ماؤه الحل ميتته. Rasulullah said, its water is pure, to make wudu, to make ghusl with, but also it's dead sea life. All of it is lawful for you to eat. Dead sea life. So the scholars say, by right, if the dead sea life is lawful for us to consume, then by right, the living sea life would be lawful for us to consume as well. So I mean, if you have an allergy, that's something else. But if you don't, you can take by what you feel comfortable with in this case.
One hadith says that only fish is halal. Is there any hadith?
There are narrations like this, but then the problem is, take it as a rule, if a narration conflicts with the wording of the Quran and Sunnah, or that with a more authentic hadith, then in that case, the hadith we will not take it. It's an indication that it's weak. We have, what do you call it, multiple narrations that speak of the lawfulness of eating anything in the ocean. Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, rahmatullahi alayhi, in his book Al-Muhalla bil-Athar, he spoke of, it's a large argument where he discussed that even if there was anything in the ocean, because some madhab say that if there's a pig of the ocean, you cannot eat it. So if there's an animal in the land that's haram for us to consume, then an animal like it in the ocean would be haram for us to consume. Here he mentioned there's no proof for this. These are all ta'leel, intellectual reasonings. The proofs that might be used are weak in that sense. So we look at the overall rule that everything is lawful. Of course, if one is uncomfortable because of cultural reason, that's something else. We're not going to say haram, but you avoid it. That's it. Inshallah. Exactly. Yes, yes. Sisters, any questions? Okay.
Just my question is with regards to the protein drinks, like
Protein drinks, yeah, okay.
Those shakes, the one you take, because they do come in a powdery form.
Yes.
So what is your view on that? Because I know you touched a little bit on apple here when you talk about
Amino acids?
Yeah, I mean like those manures, stuff that people put into the farm, which would result in fruits. And I know that most of these protein shakes, some of it, how people describe it is like, oh, it's a fruit.
Yeah.
Then it got grounded, now it's in a powdery form. So what is your view on that?
Well, looking at the protein drinks, not everything is the same. They differ. Everyone differs. There might be some that you can say might be haram, potentially speaking, and others that are not. One of the biggest issues with them that some say they contain whey powder. The whey, of course, some people say it's haram because of the fact rennet and whatnot. I don't believe it rennet to be haram to begin with. So my viewpoint would be it's okay as long as there's nothing in it that would harm your body. Because sometimes they add too many chemicals or they put too many proteins that might harm your body in one way or the other. So in that case, it's best to avoid those things. But, I mean, like I said, it's by case by case. So if you find one that is better, khayran. If you find one that's less, then avoid that kind. So you can't really brush everything the same thing, but overall, they should be okay as long as nothing haram in its content or not harmful to your body. If it's been proven to be safe for your consumption, not going to do anything that's harmful for your body, plus there's nothing haram in it, like an alcohol extract, or sometimes they put something to sweeten up the drink and whatnot. Those things might be questionable. The sweeteners, the colors. So just look into it. Everything's individual. Look at it in the ingredients, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Sheikh, I'm not clear when you mentioned in the beginning that if there is a pure substance in large amount and impurity goes in there in a very small amount, it gets diluted, right?
Yes.
So that makes the whole thing permissible then?
Yes.
So why that is not applied to ice cap?
Well, here with the ice cap, because of the small amount it's not diluted, it's still there. So as you drink the ice cap, you'll taste the sweetness. It's like a uniform sweetness throughout the entire, even the smallest amount, there's still some sweetness that remains in the small amounts of ice that are there. So although it's a small trace amount, but it's uniformly spread throughout the entire drink, so it's there. If we're to extract that trace amount of alcohol, multiply it by 1,000,000, you'll get a significant amount that would intoxicate you. And Rasulullah here said, whatever its large amount intoxicates, its small amount would be haram as well in that case. That's how I look at it. Of course, like I said, there's a khilaf over here. Some who say that alcohol in small amounts is not deemed an impure substance. This is the Hanafi madhab. And they say that a small amount would not intoxicate you, therefore it would not be deemed impure. But the view that I take by, which I view to be the strongest, is the majority opinion that alcohol is an impure substance. And if added to something, it would deem that to be impure as well. So in baked products, for example, aside from the ice caps, and this is more of an issue because you put alcohol into a cake, for example, or where they put it on a French food, where they flame the alcohol out. You tell you everything is flamed out, but no, there's still a large amount of alcohol that remains in that food as a tenderizer, as a flavor, it gives different textures to the food that you're consuming. In a cake that you bake, it can sit for 3 hours in the oven and still in the end has a small, minuscule amount of alcohol still within it, subhanAllah. So it's always there. To me, it's best to be safe and sound from it, to avoid it altogether as much as you can, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yes, sir.
In a few fruit jams, I've seen the substance called pectin.
Yes. So there's nothing wrong with pectin. Yeah, it's sometimes confused with pepsin, but there's two different things over here. Inshallah, jazakallah khair. Yes. Okay, go ahead, sister. Yes, go ahead, inshallah. Yes.
I heard a lot of the hadith, but I can't quote it. That
Okay.
anything that crawls on the ground or on the floor and then goes back into the water, crawls in the water, is haram. Is that true, brother?
This is what we call al-barma'i. So whatever lives partly on land and partly in the ocean, like an alligator, a crocodile.
Or crab?
Well, crabs, they come, I would not consider barma'i. They only come to the land, unless you have a land crab, that's something else. Like a coconut crab, that's something else. But the crabs that we see in the marketplace, they come to the shore just to bury their eggs and they go back basically in the ocean. So it's a different case. It's something special. But barma'i, an amphibian, partly on land, partly in the ocean water. The hukum here that I take by is that it's inappropriate for you to consume this. So it's haram for one to consume alligator, crocodile, and whatnot. The reason for this is that we have part of it haram, part of it halal. The part that's haram is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has forbidden any animal that has teeth. It's a carnivorous animal. So كُلُّ ذِي نَابٍ مِنَ السِّبَاعِ وَكُلُّ ذِي مِخْلَبٍ مِنَ الطَّيْرِ. Rasulullah has forbidden carnivorous animals and birds of prey. You can't consume that. So any animal that has that trait of being carnivorous or omnivorous, right? It has a haram to it. So crocodiles and alligators, they're partly haram based on that. The part that deems it to be halal, possibly, is that it lives in the water for a lot of the time. Crocodiles and alligators live in water for a long time. So here you have part halal, part haram, coexisting within one thing. So you give priority to what? The haram over the halal, and we avoid consuming that. Even though this is my approach and many scholars' approaches in terms of this type of animal, there are some who deem alligator to be halal to consume. You find some say it's okay, you can eat alligator, you can eat crocodile. Everyone's different, you're not going to force an opinion upon anyone, but you can debate and discuss in that way. But crabs are different. I don't deem them amphibians in that sense because they're all the time in the water. They only come to bury their eggs and that is it, and they go back in the ocean. There are some fish as well that come right to the shore. I forget the name of it. They bury their eggs and then they go back in the ocean. So this is an exceptional case, part of their life cycle, but 99.9% of their lives are in the water. But that would take the hukum of the water, not the land.
What about the content of that meat? Like if it has 90% cholesterol, for example, prawns, I was studying, they have most of their, bodies made up of cholesterol. So isn't that bad for
Well,
your body?
if a person's sister is, in a condition where they should avoid those types of fats and whatnot, then yeah, by all means, avoid it. But we can't say just because it's harmful to one person, it should be deemed harmful to everyone. it's a case-by-case basis here. So if someone is, allergic to shellfish, we tell them it's haram for you to eat shellfish because it's harmful to you, but for everyone else it's not, unless a condition arises to indicate that. So you look at it in that light, case by case. But like I said, if someone has a preference not to eat this, by all means, no one's forcing you to eat it. If you have a feel that people should avoid it, you can share your opinion and then leave it at that. Don't enforce it upon someone. Jazakallah khair. Yes.
About the Doritos, they have cheddar cheese. Does cheddar cheese have gelatin?
No, cheese will not have gelatin. Cheese will have rennet. At least that's what they say. But here, the rennet, like for the cheese over here, it's like a powder, chemical powder. So it doesn't really have cheese in it. It's more a cheese flavor, a cheese taste. They might say with actual cheese you look at it says labeling, cheese flavor, real cheese flavor, actual cheese. It's not really cheese, it's chemicals, it's powder. But for argument's sake, let's say there is real cheese in it. I don't believe this to be the cheese that has rennet in it to begin with. These are microbial, the cheaper stuff that you get in the market, the processed stuff, which in any case is halal. It's not going to be haram. Yes?
So I was wondering if you could clarify the issue of using alcohol in pasta sauces, because a lot of Muslims will, we have sort of this idea that all of the alcohol just boils away and that it's okay. So I'm just wondering if you could.
Well, no. If you look at, you shouldn't be using it to begin with, because if you carry them, Rasulullah has cursed a person who buys alcohol, sells alcohol, carries alcohol. So in essence, if you're cooking with alcohol, you're carrying it, you're buying it, you're using it. So there's multiple times that you'd be cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you avoid it.
In restaurants.
Yeah, so like, let's say a person is, using it in this sense, where they're cooking with it. I guarantee you, not everything is burnt away. There is a considerable amount that remains. A while back I did the research, I forget exactly the numbers, where they did a scientific testing to see how much alcohol remains. Even in flaming it, there's quite a lot left in the food itself after you flame the alcohol. Yeah, a lot of it goes, but a lot of it stays still. A large amount stays, subhanAllah. Baking it, yeah, but still it's a large amount to me, subhanAllah. Because people think, I've been told, all the alcohol goes. No, it doesn't. Alcohol sits there, a lot of it goes, but then still a considerable amount stays over there. That amount that remains in the food gives it the texture, the taste, the tenderness and whatnot, so you should avoid that, definitely. So, the argument to me is a flawed argument. Regardless, a Muslim should not use it at all. I mean, you'll find it in certain restaurants, what is it called? These, not the Subway, but there's another one, Quiznos subs, where they make the sandwiches for you. They have their ingredients, white wine, used in many of their sauces. You tell them, I don't want the white wine, for example. Remove it, I don't eat it. In BP's, Boston Pizzas, they use white wine quite frequently in their sauces. You gotta tell them, no white wine. And so on and so forth. So you gotta be a bit careful. And they'll take your request considerably, and they'll change the menu in accordance to what you want, then, inshallah. Exactly. Yeah.
Sheikh, one question. You were talking about this cross-contamination. If something is mixed with haram, it becomes haram. So one thing, we notice in subways, they would use they have gloves. You can ask them to change the gloves and all of the precautions there. But what's happening there is the customer that just served before you, they touch the hand with the same gloves, and then they use the same hands into the salads.
That's true.
So they're picking up the cucumbers, tomatoes, the salads, and everything. So now all of those salads. So you can ask them to change the gloves, but you can't ask them to change all the salads.
That's true. That's the thing. If you're not comfortable in that place, I would say avoid it. But at times you have no other option, So in that place you can, take by what you had before you. Like I said, there's certain towns that I've driven through in Alberta. And I was shocked because they have large Muslim populations living there. Not a single halal place. So as you're driving through, the only option you have is maybe a KFC or a Subway. What would you pick? I go to a Subway. And because I have a gluten intolerance. Directly, the gluten intolerance is a separate station. Prepare everything separately, everything's done differently. And of course, you wouldn't eat it every single day, it's once in a while. To me, it's more like an exception in this case over here. But if you've seen someone before you who's requested a pork or whatever sub, and you can see the remnants of the sauce on the leaves, and I'd say avoid it. But what I've noticed, because I've been to a few of them in my town, And when they're serving, yeah, they'll change. If you ask them to change the glove, they clean the knife for you. And the station, they can even put it to a different side. But you're right. If the salads are touched and there's something remaining, then you can't change that. But I've rarely seen that though. When I've been there, you don't see the remnants of the pig in there. You might. It's all dry basically.
Yeah, but what I have noticed, Chef, is like some people they ask to warm up their meal, so they
Yeah.
take it out from the oven or the toaster they
Yeah.
have, and now they're putting the salad, so they're touching the greasy stuff at
That's
the same time, right?
Yeah.
So all the salads they got olives, cucumbers, and they're all touching with the same hands, right?
Yeah. No, if you see that, it's really your judgment call at that point. Unless you want to go with the very first person in the morning to get your thing. So that way you avoid it. Or when they change it, they open a new packet, you can do that too. Yeah. So,
Just sit there, wait for 2 hours.
yes, sir. Right.
I think the point of lecture, the way I understand it, is all about being cautious of what we as Muslims should be able to do.
Yes.
Also, my question here now would be, we talk about Allah being the most forgiving, being most merciful. So now, if you come from a family where there's not any other option but to eat what is provided there, because if you do not eat what is provided, it can look as a sound disrespectful.
Yes.
To the family members, or in certain situation, the food which is there is just what's there. There's nothing else. So in those areas, if you eat something that it's haram, but there's no any other way to avoid that.
Yeah. So you're talking maybe about pork?
I'm talking about pork or any other. Even if it's like a celebration and then your family members want you to partake in, maybe consume some alcoholic beverages,
Yeah.
which in most cases in my situation never happen. But I mean, for some people who can't, avoid that, what would you
Here,
say?
look, there's a.
Especially, Chef, just to interrupt, maybe because sometimes we have situations of new Muslims, people coming new to Islam, and their family members are not.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I would say to you is that you don't disrespect your parents, because in Fort McMurray we've got a few brothers who converted to Islam. The same experience. They don't know what to expect. The parents at times were aware, and in some cases not aware. So in the case of not being aware, there's always a way to kind of get away from these things. I mean, in a wise, respectful manner. So I would tell them, look at the story of Prophet Ibrahim. Prophet Ibrahim, when he was told by his father, his people to come take part in the party, what did he say? Inni saqim, I'm sick, I can't take part in this. Even though he told a lie over here, this was allowed in the context that he was in to avoid something that was unlawful. So you're not going to hurt the feelings of your parents, but you get out of it in a way that would be appropriate. But if they know that you're Muslim, one way to kind of get ahead of this whole issue is to kind of go out of your way to provide the halal options yourself. So let's say you bring the meal in, you prepare part of the food yourself, you bring the drinks in, the halal drinks or not, and then you sit down with them, and then you can have that they look at it as a sign of respect in that sense too, because you brought this thing and you went out of your way. And I find that most families, they're very accommodating. There's a very rare case where you might find a family who would force the child or the son, the daughter, to kind of eat pork or drink alcohol. That's in a rare case. But if you bring it, if you're gonna go, you're gonna be there for a few hours, and you say, "No, Mom, I'm gonna cook today. Don't worry, I'll do it." And then she does whatever she's doing, and you're doing whatever you're doing, you're preparing the meal from your own end with halal. It's that can be a creative way of getting out of something that is inappropriate. In that case, all I would say is use your creativity, and inshallah you'll find a way out of these situations. And always have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will aid you and He will guide you to what is best, inshallah. Many people, they've thought, there's no way ahead, but then Allah opens a way, definitely, subhanAllah. And may Allah bless you, akhi. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Any other questions? Yes.
What's the ruling of eating rabbit or kangaroo?
Rabbit is okay because...
Is it available here?
I know, rabbit is. You can eat rabbit.
Kangaroo,
Kangaroo, yes, subhanAllah. with rabbit, yeah, it was eaten during Rasulullah's time. We have in the narration, Rasulullah, the Sahaba ate rabbit, right? That was there, it's in the narration. They ate horse, they ate rabbit, they ate, various, they ate lizard, yahi, desert lizard. They ate hyena back then too. So, not everything you have to eat. If they, like Rasulullah did not eat everything himself. When he was offered to eat lizard, desert lizard, he said, no, I don't find this being something I can eat. He said, I don't eat this because it does not look appealing, plus it's not from the land of my people. I'm not accustomed to it. So he didn't eat, but other Sahaba ate. They loved it. Not just because something is halal you have to eat it. You want to be adventurous, you can go ahead and try, inshallah. Kangaroo, likewise, is halal. The reason it's being halal, we look at the guidelines for animals. What would deem an animal haram? We say if it's carnivorous or omnivorous, it becomes haram. If the animal is a herbivore, halal. The kangaroo is not omnivorous, not carnivorous. It's a herbivore, it eats herbs. Oh yeah, it's aggressive, yes. But overall, it would be deemed halal to consume, right? The only things that we have as an exception to the rule, because it also said birds of prey are haram to consume, animals, carnivorous or omnivorous, are haram to consume. Anything else is halal. So the only exception to this is the hyena, right? And the narration comes, there is some debate as to, whether the Prophet ﷺ ate or not. It doesn't mention that he ate or not. It just says that they were allowed to consume al-daba'. Al-daba' in Arabic is hyena. So some scholars have given some type of direction as to why this is deemed halal. Without getting into the details of that discussion, of that debate, overall, if it's been deemed halal in the Quran and Sunnah, halal, if not haram. So the two that you've asked about, if you want to go and try it, try rabbit. It's a bit slimy, but it's okay. Kangaroo I've not eaten, so I don't know.
Bring me back.
Allah understand. Yes, sir.
So, talking about kangaroo, which reminds me of like a hunting. Now, I have two, I have friends that they are Aboriginals, but they hunt, and there is Christian who hunts.
Yeah.
Now, the Christian, I kind of understand it's okay, it's halal. If it's guy's Christian and you leave it and you shoot it, to get the same condition of the dog, right?
Yeah.
I guess Aboriginal would be not.
You mean like a native?
Yeah.
If they slaughter? Are they Christians or?
No, he's asking hunting.
Shooting.
So,
yeah, no, but even hunting. Then, if you look at it's a Christian or a Jew hunting, a Muslim, it's all halal.
Yeah.
But if it's a non-Muslim, non-Jew, non-Christian, non-Kitabi, you can't consume.
Yeah.
But here the question is, you said natives, right?
Yeah.
Natives. A lot of natives are Christians. Yeah, that's the thing.
No, they believe in their own religion.
Okay, then in that case,
But can he say tasmiyah on the bullets?
yeah,
Like the instrument.
No. If you're gonna shoot yourself, khair, ya akhi.
But that's if he should.
No. If you can tell the
Just watch
guy.
it.
No,
I have a native friend who actually brought me some and they say I can't eat it.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, because I know that.
What did he bring you? Moose or?
Moose, yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, it's pretty good.
But I have it from a Christian friend.
I have brothers in Port Mac. They brought me moose and deer. Deer is pretty good, mashallah. My wife made a deer stew, so amazing. It is. Okay, no problem. Any questions, sisters? Okay, go ahead, inshallah.
Can you share examples like Ice Cap you shared? Just regular examples
Of what?
of junk food or regular food.
That you should avoid?
I was never aware of Ice Cap.
Just open up your pantry.
Yeah. Open up his mind. Let's do it. Well, look, yeah. That you should avoid specifically? Well, look, you have...
Regular things from Tim Hortons, you shared one.
Yeah, so... Well, you look at gelatin, for Jello.
Okay.
Avoid that unless it's stamped halal from Malaysia. They use beef gelatin, otherwise it's pork. Pork gelatin is different, it does not completely transform, so that's haram, avoid that. You'll have, for example, in some of the fruit, the flans, the custards, they contain pure vanilla extract, avoid that because of the alcohol content. You'll have certain ice creams, not all of them, but some of them, the higher end ice creams, that have vanilla flavor.
Yeah.
Pure, it's written pure vanilla flavor, that has alcohol 100%, avoid that. So if it's written artificial, you'll see it, they label that in the back. Artificial, it's powder, garbage. But if it's natural, then there's a big chance it's okay. If it's pure, avoid that. And so it's just a matter of doing some homework in these things. But what I would suggest, advise against, is don't take an app and just take it for granted. What I would do, because we said one of the biggest principles that people forget about in terms of halal is the factor of there being harm. And the best way for you is, and I'll give you this app right now. This app is, it's called e-numbers on my phone. I have an iOS, so what it does, e-additive, sorry. So it gives you like this, a color coding. So you have green, red, and yellow. And then if you click on any one of them, let's say the red over here, it tells you it risks asthma, hyperactivity. It tells you, for example, prohibited in the EU, European Union. And it provokes asthma attacks in children, it linked to thyroid tumors. It's banned in many countries. So if you find this in candies or foods, and it's in many, anything that is red in color, they'll have this, or yellow in color, sorry. You have, the beautiful thing with it color codes every single additive, every one of them. So you know what's safe, what's from a plant source, what's from a chemical source. It's very easy to determine. So I'd say this is the best thing for you right now. That in order for you to live the rules of halal, it's in this, to kind of understand what you're consuming. Once you're able to consume things in this fashion, understanding what it is, how harmful is it, what it contains, you'll be safer, inshallah. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
One question.
Yes, sister, go ahead, inshallah. Yes.
Is rubbing alcohol haram?
Oh, rubbing alcohol, you don't eat it, but it's not haram because it will not make you drunk. It will not intoxicate. So you can use that to purify your wounds and not. Brothers, sisters, one last thing. If those of you who've been to Malaysia, or even you find products brought from Malaysia over here, now this is a common thing, and you might laugh at this, but then when I went there first, the water is stamped halal. Right? And you laugh at it, but then you understand why is it like this, these are scholars that stamp this thing halal. So I asked them, my professors in the University of Malaysia, I said, why is this stamped halal? I want to know. They said, we have a lecture on this, a 1 hour plus lecture that they spoke on why water is stamped halal. And I was stunned. They said because the water goes through a filtration process, right? So in order for it to go through the filtration process, they use filters. These filters, there's the big filter, the smaller and the finer ones as you go on, to finally get the end product of the filtered water, the water that you drink. So the filtered water, they use boar hairs and khanzir hair initially to filter all the junk first, and then it goes to another boar filter until you get down to the finer filters. So they say when we say halal, we ensure for you that there's no pig in this whatsoever. No pig hair has touched our water. So I said, oh, mashallah, bravo to you, alhamdulillah. It's amazing. The what do you call it, makeup for women in Malaysia is stamped halal. I thought to myself, why is it stamped halal? And in the lecture that we had, they said because the majority of the makeups that we get here, they're from Japan. And in Japan, this is a weird thing, it doesn't even hit your mind, but subhanAllah, and China, they import this stuff. So when it's imported into the country, the makeup is, it uses the placenta. When a woman gives birth, the placenta, they don't discard it. They use it and they grind it up and they put it in the makeup. They say because when there is a human base or placenta in the makeup and you put it in the skin, it will not have a reaction. It'll be better, on the skin, softer, and it would not have any allergic reaction. So they're using these things, and they're saying when we say halal, not to eat, but we're telling you that there's nothing haram in the makeup itself. They have halal on the shoe insoles, stamped halal. Why? To indicate to you that there's no, pork content, skin, leather, pork leather inside that insole. They stamp halal and every single thing you can imagine there to indicate to you that it's safe. So I laughed at first, as you laughed, but when you realize, this is a big thing, and they're the only country that do this, by the way. They're the pioneers in this regard. What I found amazing as well, my instructor in the university there, he was a Sudanese instructor along with an Indonesian instructor. The two of them, the Indonesian instructor, Sheikh Irwandi, he's a graduate of UBC. in the science, food, health department. He's a PhD. So when he came back to Malaysia, they put him as the head of the department. So Sheikh Irwandi and his counterpart, the Sudanese brother, they built a machine, a device, which is amazing. And the device it has two ends. The one end, it sniffs out the exact alcohol content in anything before you. So you have a food, a drink, you put that there, it's like a nose, you push the button, it tells you the exact amount of alcohol in this product. The other end, it sniffs out the exact porcine content in the food or thing that's before you, subhanAllah. So it was an amazing experience there for myself. But then these things were, these little things that, we tend to laugh at, there's a reason behind it, subhanAllah. Allah understand. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for sharing your knowledge with us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq and consume what is halal. On behalf of the Kamloops Muslim community, we wanted to present you just a small gift. Jazakallah khair. So inshallah we have some refreshments upstairs. So the Sheikh has provided us with the food for thought, and now we'll provide food for the stomach. So the sisters inshallah can head up for refreshments, and we'll have some down here.